Welcome, everyone. This is Scott. Spitfire currently has a sale on studio strings. I have the Pro version. I always go for the Pro because I love the extra mic settings. I think I want to say sometimes there's some extra articulations, but don't quote me on that. But generally, I like those extra mics, ambient mics especially, and I just like that extra control. So just so that we're clear, I have the Pro versions. Symphonic doesn't have a Pro version, but Studio Strings does have a Pro version. So that might factor into your debate on whether or not to buy. But here's just a real quick demo. Okay, so this is just a track I use for some experimentation, and this is the bass and cellos. Now let me first solo. Yep, solo. No, let's mute the studios real quick. And so, nothing fancy here. We're just doing the spiccato, close mic and tree mic on the symphonic settings here. Which sound fantastic. But what you might use studio mics for, and let me just solo these so you can hear them. You can hear cello is very... In fact, that's actually too high. Let's bring that down a bit. There we go. I put these at transposes, but I don't think I really needed to do that. Okay, but you can hear, this is a Cello 3A. So I just have one of the close mics and one of the tree mics. I turn the reverb down, very important. I think it's a fake reverb, I'm not sure. I don't know that I care, but I prefer to rely on the mics because that's what you're paying Spitfire to record. Okay, so that's how the cello patch sounds. Here's the bass. Very dry. That's very key. If you're looking to buy Spitfire studio strings by itself, it's a very dry sound. Yes, you have the overhead and ambient mics. You can go for those, but you're not going to get that huge mega symphonic sound necessarily. So my observation is I like to overlay them. So, for instance, I got the basses on Symphonic. There's only one option, basses with studio strings. In fact, let me pull up the patch here. You'll see that although there's only one bass option, you'll see there's 4 different cello options. So when it says 12, that means there's 12 instruments playing, 12 players. 6 means 6 players. 3A, 3B works great for what they call the VC. Stereo or panning or rhythmic sections that you go back and forth between, but just see that there's so many, way more recordings, and sometimes that's key when you're very repetitive is when you have rhythmic repetition, when you're layering. If you want to try to mask some of that synthetic sound, this is where this can be of use. So let me just play the track real quickly here. I'm going to mute the studio. This is what it sounds like without the studio strings. Now, when I layer in, it might be hard to tell. Why is it my cello playing? Is it because of the transpose? It is. That's why I had it on, huh? So what you can hear is some more of the bow noise, the actual strings coming out, the vibrations. So that's what the studio strings does. In fact, you'll almost kind of call it, if I stop it here, it almost kind of sounds like the Albion 3. Now, if you turn off the studio, it sounds okay. I mean, it still sounds great, but with the studio series, you're basically adding additional mics. So it sounds very similar, but the different mic positions and mic sounds, you're focusing in on individual instruments. That's the benefit. So a lot of folks say, I have BBC Orchestra already. You could get studio strings to layer on top. That would absolutely give you a lot more options if you want to sound more authentic and more real. I'm going to switch over to violins here and show you same concept. I got the violins with the symphonic strings in the studio. And what I did was use there's only one violins section. Well, there's 1 and 2 with symphonic. But what I did is I just used the violins 1, 4A and 4B. So that's the divisi. And so 4 players each, but they're different takes. And you'll notice that I put the pan over a little bit to give it a little stereo sound. I used a different mic on the 4B, but we're still on the spiccato. Now, if I just solo the symphonic. Now, I'm on the close mic and just the tree. I don't even have the ambient. And you can hear the reverb on that already. So adding in the studio, it's like putting mics on individual instruments that give you a lot more definition to the actual sounds of that instrument without quite so much reverb. You almost get a large feel with the divisi, with the studio, but putting the symphonic back in, solo symphonic, hear how it drags out a lot more. I could kill the tree, but the close mics just aren't very distinct compared to the studio. Hear the tail on those sounds. And the release is just right in the middle. Anyway, that's a very quickie on layering a larger symphonic sound with the studio strings. That's one concept you